Flowing through him like a river of light and sensation, through it all Lixa anchored him her presence a constant. Amid the flood of memories, her thoughts entwined with his intimate, in a way, no physical touch could match when there. Lips finally met, he wasn't sure who moved first, it felt like the natural conclusion to a sentence they'd been writing together since the moment he unearthed the crown. Arthur woke with a gasp, his mind buzzing with information that hadn't been there before. Battle strategies from 10,000 years ago, the molecular structure of voidborn armor. The taste of a fruit from a planet long destroyed the sensation of Lick's skin. Against his in the darkness, after the ritual he sat up, sheets sliding from his bare chest. The quarters he'd been assigned aboard the Eternal Flame were spacious, but alien curved walls and furniture that seemed to grow from the floor rather than being placed upon it. Lixa slept beside him, her silver hair spread across the pillow, her blue skin luminous in the dim light. The events after the ritual came back to him in a rush of sensory memories, the way their mental connection had naturally extended to physical intimacy, the surprising compatibility of their bodies despite their different species, the whispered confessions in the aftermath. As if sensing his gaze, her eyes fluttered open. Your thoughts are loud, she murmured, stretching languidly. Sorry, still getting used to all of this. He tapped his temple. It's like having a library installed in my brain overnight. She smiled, propping herself up on one elbow. The knowledge of all previous wearers, how does it feel? Overwhelming. He reached out, tracing the curve of her shoulder with his fingertips, but not as overwhelming as this. Her skin flushed that deeper indigo he'd come to find so endearing. The ritual often creates strong bonds between participants, but this is more, definitely more, he agreed, leaning down to kiss her lightly. No regrets, none. Her hand came up to cup his face. Though I wonder what your people would think of such a union. Arthur laughed. Humans have a long history of falling for people they shouldn't. It's practically a tradition. A chime interrupted them. The ship's communication system. Keller came. Commander Thier's voice, formal and stiff. Your presence is requested in the training arena. The integration exercise begins in 1 hour. Acknowledged, Arthur replied, then sigh. As the communication ended, duty calls. Lixa sat up fully, the sheet falling away to reveal the elegant lines of her torso. He doesn't approve of your methods, he doesn't approve of me. Arthur corrected, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. Can't say I blame him. Some human shows up, finds a helmet, and suddenly he's taking orders from me. Not just any human, Lixa said, moving to kneel behind him, her arm sliding around his waist. The crown chose you. That means something to our people, but not to Terra's. Terra's is traditional, he expected Keller to be Terra's fall. Her lips brushed his shoulder. He will learn. Arthur turned in her embrace. And what about you? What did you expect? Her eyes met his. Serious now. I expected to serve Kelnar. I did not expect to care for the man who wears the crown. The simple honesty of her words touched something in him. For years he drifted from one battlefield to another, never staying long enough to form connections. Now in the most unlikely place, he'd found someone who saw past the mercenary to the man beneath. We should get dressed, he said reluctantly. I have a feeling today is going to be interesting. The training arena was a vast chamber in the belly of the Eternal Flame. Taurus Val warriors in sleek armor stood in formation on one side, while Arthur's mercenary team, looking scruffy but determined, waited on the other. Today, we become one fighting force, Arthur announced, his voice carrying across the space. The crown of ascension rested on his head. Now its weight surprisingly comfortable. The Voidborn woman care if you're human or terse, Val, they'll kill you just the same. He gestured in holographic displays activated around the arena, showing tactical simulations he'd prepared with the knowledge from the crown. Traditional terrace fall formations are powerful but predictable, he continued. Human guerrilla tactics are effective, but lack the cohesion for a large-scale battle. We're going to take the best of both, Commander. Thea stepped forward. And how do you propose to accomplish this fusion? By pairing each human with a T-fall squad, Arthur explained. My people will teach yours to think unpredictably, to use terrain and misdirection. Your people will teach mine to coordinate them movements within a larger strategy. Murmurs rippled through both groups, some skeptical, others intrigued. Impossible, Thays declared. Our warriors trained from childhood. Your humans cannot learn our techniques in a day, they don't need to. Lixa energied, stepping forward to stand beside Arthur. They only need to understand the principles the crown has shown Keller a way to combine our strengths. Arthur nodded gratefully at her support. We start with basic drills. Decker pair up with squad leader Pel Powell. You're with Mira's team, as the groups reluctantly began to intermingle. Arthur approached Thays. I need your support on this, commander. Your warriors respect you, the Taurus Fall officer. Studied him coldly. They respect the crown, not the human wearing it, then help me earn their respect, Arthur countered. Or would you rather we all die separately than live together? Something shifted in Thyr's expression, not quite acceptance, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. Very well, I will participate in your experiment. The training session that followed was chaotic at first. Cultural misunderstandings abounded. Tious Ophel warriors were offended by the mercenaries' casual profanity, while the humans were frustrated by the aliens' rigid adherence to protocol. No, 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 Decker was saying to a terrace of all squad. If the enemy expects you to go right, you go left. If they expect you to attack, you retreat. Always do the unexpected, but that dishonors the confrontation. A warrior protested. A true fighter faces his enemy directly. A smart fighter lives to fight another day, Decker retorted across the arena. Powell, his withered arm now replaced with a Terrell prosthetic, was demonstrating human hand signals to his assigned team. 2 taps means danger. A head closed fist means stop. This one means I need covering fire. Arthur moved among them, the crown enhancing his perception. He could see patterns forming, connections being made where there was friction. He redirected where there was progress. He encouraged Lixa remain by his side, her presence both comforting and energizing. Occasionally, their hands would brush or their eyes would meet, and the memory of their night together would flash between them like an electric current. They're adapting faster than I expected, she observed as they watched a mixed human terrorist squad successfully complete a flanking maneuver. Necessity is a powerful motivator, Arthur replied, and so is survival. By the end of the session, the improvement was remarkable. The two forces hadn't fully integrated, but they began to understand each other's strengths. Even these seemed grudgingly impressed as the warriors dispersed. Arthur felt a sudden surge of energy from the crown. Images flooded his mind. The Voidborn fleet closer than expected, a weakness in their formation, an opportunity. He staggered slightly, and Lixa steadied him. What is it? The crown, he gasped. It's showing me something. The Voidborn, they're coming faster than we thought, but there's a chance. A strategy. Her eyes widened. The power is manifesting. This is what the prophecy foretold. Arthur straightened, his mind racing with possibilities that hadn't existed moments before. Get the War Council together now. I know how we're going to win this. You want us to do what? Elder Kell's voice rose in disbelief as he stared at the holographic battle plan Arthur had laid out before the war council. Fight them on the ground, Arthur repeated calmly, the crown of ascension gleaming on his head. Not in space. The council chamber erupted in protest. Commander Thays slammed his fist on the table. Our fleet is our greatest advantage. To abandon it for ground combat is madness. The Voidborn expect a space battle, Arthur explained, his voice cutting through the chaos. Their ships outnumber ours 3-1, but on the ground with the right strategy, we can negate that advantage. He manipulated the hologram, zooming in on the excavation site where he'd found the crown. This area is rich in minerals that disrupt Voidborn energy signatures. That's why the crown was hidden there. If we lure their forces to this location, their connection to their dimensional home will weaken. Lixa stepped forward, her eyes meeting his with perfect understanding. The mental link they'd formed during the ritual had only grown stronger. The prophecy speaks of the final battle occurring where the crown was found. This is why High Elder Ren stroked his long silver beard thoughtfully. There is wisdom in Kellark plan, but how do we lure them to this specific location? Arthur smiled, with the one thing they want more than anything. He tapped the crown on his head. The plan was set in motion faster than anyone anticipated. Long-range sensors detected a Voidborn advance force, approaching a dozen ships breaking away from the main fleet to establish a beach. Head there, testing our defenses, Arthur told the assembled commanders in the Eternal Flames Tactical Center. This is our chance to prove our combined tactics work, and to spring the first part of our trap, the newly integrated human Terrell. Teams moved into position around the excavation site. Arthur watched from a command post as Decker led his mixed squad to the northern ridge. Remember, Arthur's voice carried through with their sea systems. Fight unpredictably, but fight together. The terse Val among you have strength and discipline. The humans have adaptability and cunning use. Both. Lixa stood beside him, now dressed in combat armor that matched his own, a blend of traditional Terrace V design with practical modifications, suggested by the mercenaries. The crown is revealing more to you, she observed, not a question but a Statement Arthur nodded not just battle plans history your people's history, and mine before he could elaborate the sensor blare dark shapes descended through the atmosphere voidborne landing craft their obsidian holes, absorbing rather than reflecting light. Here they come Arthur. Announce stick to the plan let them think they're pushing us back the battle. Erupted across the excavation site voidborne troops, shadowy humanoid figures. With too many joints and eyes that glowed sickly green poured from their ships, they moved with unnatural speed. Their limbs sometimes seeming to pass through solid matter, the combined human-turtle forces engaged them with disciplined chaos where the terse would traditionally have formed defensive lines, they now broke into smaller units. Each led by a human who directed their movements with hand signals and quick commands they're adapting to our tactics. Thays reported from his position commanding the eastern flank, the grudging respect in his voice was evident even if Arthur the comm static fall back to position 2 Arthur ordered. As the Voidborn pressed forward, make them think they're winning the retreat was orderly, but appeared desperate to any observer, the Voidborn pursued eagerly pushing deeper into the mineral-rich terrain around the excavation site. Energy readings from the enemy are fluctuating Lixir, reported monitoring the sensors the minerals are affecting them. Arthur nodded satisfaction coursing through him, spring the trap hidden emitters activated. Throughout the battlefield, generating a field that further disrupted the void's dimensional connection the shadowy figures faltered their movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. Now Arthur commanded the human Terrace Ophel forces pivoted with practiced precision, turning their retreat into a devastating counterattack. Caught off guard and weakened, the Voidborn advanced force crumbled. As the last enemy fell, a cheer rose from the combined troops. Arthur allowed himself a moment of pride before turning to Lixa. It worked, he said simply. Yes, she agreed, her eyes shining with something more than just victory, but the main fleet will be more cautious now, that's counting on it. He tapped the crown. There's something I need to show you. Something the crown revealed to me about the original Keller. They stood in the private quarters they now shared. A holographic projection from the crown filling the center of the room. It showed a man unmistakably human standing among ancient TSF fall. The original Keller was human, Arthur said quietly. The crown didn't choose me by accident. Our peoples have been connected for millennia. Lixa stared at the projection and wonder this changes everything. Our historians believed according to the crown's memories humans and Taos have all fought the Voidborn together long ago. When the Voidborn were defeated, they retreated to their dimension, but vowed to return. The human Kelnar stayed with the Taurusville, became one of them. He paused, he fell in love with a Tazel woman. Their eyes met, the parallel unmistakable over generations. The truth became legend. Arthur continued, the human origin of Keller was forgotten, but the crown remembered. Lixa moved closer to him, her hand finding it his. Is that why our bodies are compatible, why our minds linked so easily during the ritual? The crown suggests our species may share distant ancestry, Arthur said, or perhaps the original Keller and his partner had children, creating a genetic link between our peoples. The implications hung in the air between them, not just for them personally, but for both their species. We should tell the council, Lixa said finally. Tomorrow, Arthur agreed. Tonight we prepare for the main fleet. And he pulled her closer. Tonight I want to be just Arthur, not Keller, just a man with the woman he's falling for. Her blue skin flushed that deeper indigo he'd come to adore. I think that can be arranged. As they came together, the crown on the bedside table pulsed with approving light, as if the spirits of those who came before, including the original human Keller and his Terrace Ophel love, were giving their blessing to this echo of ancient history. Outside, the stars shimmered with the approaching Voidborn fleet. Tomorrow would bring the true test of their strategy, their forces, and their leader's ship, but tonight belonged to them alone. A human and a Tias Ophel bridging worlds, just as their ancestors had done. Millennia before dawn broke over the excavation site, bathing the assembled forces in golden light. Arthur stood at the forward command post, the crown of ascension gleaming on his head as he surveyed the battlefield beside him. Lixa monitored the approaching Voidborn fleet, hundreds of obsidian ships descending through the atmosphere like a storm of black tears. They're coming in exactly as you predicted, she said, a note of wonder in her voice. Arthur nodded after revealing the truth about the original Keller to the High Council. Everything had changed. The Terrace Val no longer saw humans as strange outsiders, but as long-lost kin. Even Commander Thays had knelt before Arthur pledging his loyalty not just to the crown, but to the man wearing it. The main force will land here. Arthur indicated the center of the excavation site. They think they're coming for the crown, but they're really walking into our trap. Decker approached his human mercenary gear, now supplemented with pieces of terrace, full armor. The teams are in position. Powell says the emitters are at full charge. Good. Arthur clasped his friend's shoulder. Never thought we'd end up fighting alongside blue aliens against interdimensional shadows. Did you beats digging trenches? Decker grinned. Though if you hadn't been digging that particular trench, I know. Arthur glanced at Lixa, who smiled back at him with a warmth that still made his heart race. Best shovel stroke of my life. The ground trembled as the first Voidborn ships landed. Unlike the advanced force, these were massive carriers descoring hundreds of shadow warriors. At their center stood a towering figure twice the height of the others, with a crown of writhing darkness atop its elongated head. The Void Sovereign. Lixa whispered their leader. Arthur felt the crown pulse in response, as if recognizing an ancient enemy. Knowledge flooded his mind. This was how it had been before, millennia ago, when the first Kerr had faced the same foe. Activate the emitters, he commanded. Throughout the battlefield, hidden devices powered up, creating a web of energy that disrupted the Voidborn's dimensional connection. The Shadow Warriors faltered, but less dramatically than the advanced force. Had they'd adapted, they've shielded themselves. Thews reported from his position. The minerals and emitters are having less effect. Arthur had anticipated this. Proceed to Phase 2. Draw them to the central chamber. The combined human-Terral forces engage the enemy. Fighting with the seamless integration of styles they developed, humans directed quick, unpredictable strikes, while Terr's V provided disciplined support. They gradually fell back, leading the Voidborn deeper into the excavation site toward the chamber where Arthur had first found the crown. The Void Sovereign followed, its attention fixed on Arthur and the crown. He wore it seemed to speak, though no sound emerged from its shadowy form, just a pressure in the mind, like the memory of a scream. You wear what is not yours, human. Arthur felt Lixa tense beside him. It can speak directly to our thoughts. The crown is exactly where it belongs, Arthur replied aloud, standing his ground as his forces continued their strategic retreat around him, just as it was when your kind was defeated before you had surprise. Now we know your tricks. The Sovereign gestured, and a wave of darkness pulsed outward, disabling several emitters. The Voidborn troops surge forward with renewed strength. Fall back to the chamber, Arthur ordered. Now they retreated into the underground chamber, where the crown had lain hidden for 10,000 years. The Voidborn pursued the Sovereign, leading them, drawn by the crown's energy and the promise of revenge, millennia in the making. As the last of their forces entered the chamber, Arthur gave the signal. Hidden charges detonated, collapsing the entrance tunnels. Not to trap the enemy shadow warriors could phase through solid matter, but to activate the final phase of their plan. The chamber's walls were lined with the mineral that disrupted Voidborn energy. Now exposed by the controlled demolition at the center stood an ancient device, a portal mechanism that Crown had revealed in Arthur's visions. Now Arthur shouted. Lixa activated the device while Thays led the defense against the disoriented Voidborn. The chamber filled with silver light as the portal began to form, a gateway back to the Voidborn's dimension. The Sovereign roared in their minds, a psychic assault that staggered even the strongest warriors. You cannot banish us forever. Not forever, Arthur agreed, stepping forward, the crown blazing with power. Just long enough. He raised his hands, channeling the crown's energy into the portal. The gateway expanded its pull. Strengthening Voidborn warriors were dragged toward it, their shadowy forms stretching and distorting as they fought. Against its pull, the Sovereign resisted, anchoring itself to this dimension through sheer will. It reached for Arthur with elongated limbs. If we go, you go with us, human. Lixa moved with lightning speed, her spear slicing through the Sovereign's arm before it could grasp Arthur. Not this time, she snarled. The Sovereign howled in rage and pain. The portal pulsed its pull, intensifying. One by one, the Voidborn were sucked through, returning to their home dimension. Arthur felt the crown drawing more power from him than ever before, the strain threatening to overwhelm his consciousness. Leah's hand found his there, fingers intertwining, her strength flowing into him through their mental bond. Together, she whispered with a final surge of power. They forced the Sovereign and through to the portal. As it vanished, Arthur collapsed to his knees, the crown going dark on his head. Lixa caught him before he could fall. Arthur, he looked up at her, exhausted but smiling. We did it. The portal closed with a thunderclap of energy leaving the chamber in sudden silence, broken only by the ragged breathing of the survivors. 3 months later, Arthur stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Flame, watching as a fleet of Earthships approached the Taurus Fall home RAL after the battle. He'd sent a message to the Galactic Coalition revealing the ancient connection between humans and Turval. The response had been swift and enthusiastic and official diplomatic. Mission to establish formal relations. Nervous Lixa asked, joining him at the viewport. She wore formal robes befitting her new position as ambassador to Earth. Her silver hair elaborately braided with symbols of both cultures. A little he admitted, is not every day you introduce your species to their long-lost cousins. She smiled, leaning against him. Each of their relationship had only deepened in the months since the battle. What had begun as ATT traction had blossomed into something neither had expected to find. A love that bridged worlds. The High Council has approved the treaty terms, she said, and your coalition seems equally eager. They should be. Turval technology, combined with human innovation, will revolutionize space travel within a decade. The crown of ascension sat in a display case nearby. Its purpose fulfilled for this generation. Arthur no longer needed to wear it, though the knowledge it had imparted remained with him. Have you decided? Lixa asked the question they both been circling for weeks. Arthur turned to face her fully. About staying. She nodded, trying to keep her expression neutral, but unable to hide her hope from him. Not after all they'd shared. I sent Deck and the others home with a year worth of combat pay, he said. Powell staying says the Terrace medics can do more for his arm than anyone in human space, and you. Her voice was soft. Arthur took her hands in his. I spent years drifting from one battlefield to another, never finding a place that felt like home. He smiled. Then I dug up a helmet and found everything I never knew I was looking for. Joy bloomed across her face, her skin flushed, using that beautiful indigo he loved so. You'll stay, be our liaison to Earth. I'll stay, he confirmed, pulling her closer, but not just as a liaison. The crown showed me one last vision before the battle ended. A glimpse of the future, humans and Cal working together across the galaxy. Peace instead of war, creation instead of destruction, a worthy vision, she murmured, her arm sliding around his neck. And it starts with us, he said, leaning down to kiss her. The mercenary who found a helmet and the guardian who found her heart. As their lips met, Arthur reflected on the strange path that had led him here. One casual shovel stroke had unearthed not just an ancient artifact, but a new destiny for him, for Lixa, and for both their peoples. Sometimes he thought, as he held the woman he loved, while their worlds prepared to unite, the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places.